Are you saying that my apples aren't what they ought to be? Do you know where the quote's from? No Wizard of Oz fans here, huh? Let me refresh your memory. Dorothy and the Scarecrow are on the Golden Brick Road, and Dorothy's hungry. And she goes over to a grove of apple trees, and she begins to take apples off of the trees. And of course, they're in Oz, so the trees are alive. And they're insulted by the fact that Dorothy has the temerity to just simply be removing their apples and taking them. And so she's scared away. And the Scarecrow says to her, Don't worry, Dorothy, I'll show you how this works. So the Scarecrow lobs this grenade over at the trees. He said, she didn't want your apples anyway. So one of the trees becomes extremely indignant. He says, are you saying that my apples aren't what they ought to be? And Scarecrow says, no, it's just that she doesn't like apples with little green worms. And then the trees go ballistic and begin to fling all their apples at the Scarecrow and at Dorothy. There's something to it, though, isn't there? Are you saying that my apples aren't what they ought to be? Every time these readings come up, we hear it in the book of Sirach, right? That you know the tree, the fruit of the tree shows you the care that has been lavished upon the tree. In the gospel, Jesus says today, good trees don't produce rotten fruit, just like rotten trees don't produce good fruit. Now, Jesus is talking about this in the life of a believer, but that can also be extended to the life of a parish, too. Now, I don't know about you, but in my parish, if someone was to say to me that they didn't like the apples, the fruits of what we were doing at the parish, I would become upset. And if they were to say that, I think there's little green worms in your apples, that would be disheartening. But I think what I would have to do is I'd have to take a step back and say, oh, okay, what do I need to do, or what do we need to do to change that? All throughout the Gospels, we see Jesus using this example of the vineyard and the harvest and saying that in the Lord's vineyard, when it comes time for the harvest, it's important that there be fruit, not just simply good fruit, but fruit in abundance. And I think this opportunity that you're all embarking on as a parish right now is a great opportunity for you to reflect upon your lives together as believers, as disciples of the Lord Jesus, who gather here on a regular basis to worship God. St. James reminds us in his letter just this past week during the weekly readings. He says, show me your faith without works. In parentheses, it's impossible. But I will show you the works that underlie my faith. So what's your fruit like here? I don't know, I'm new. That's why I can come in and lob these things at you. I have no idea. But I think it's a great thing for you all to reflect upon. And I think it's important that the reflection begin with not what is someone else doing, but what am I doing? What am I doing to contribute to the goodness of the fruit here at St. David's? Well, the Lord Jesus now gathers you in, and you have this opportunity to spend these beautiful 40 hours devotions with him. And Father Matt has told me that it's been a while since you've had the devotions here, so I'm extremely excited to be here with you. One of the things when I arrived at my parish, this is St. Matthew's in Northeast Philadelphia, they hadn't had 40 hours in a number of years. And so at my time at the seminary, I was a teacher there, that's how I got to know Father Matt. We worked very hard there to really reinvigorate the 40 hours devotions, because it's such a beautiful thing that lies at the very heart of the church, where we worship our God who loves us so much that he endures his presence to be among us in this incredibly mysterious sacrament. And so when I got to St. Matthew's and I realized they don't have this, I thought, okay, we've got to start this back up. And I'm sure, similar to what you all did here, I can see from the way the altar's been cared for and everything's been prepared for, there's been a lot of work and preparation, time and effort put into this, and that's a beautiful thing, just to get ready for this time together. And we did the same thing at St. Matthew's. Everything was set. Everything was ready. And we hadn't had it in a while, and I was a little nervous. I was like, we don't usually leave the church open during the day just because you're just not sure what's going to happen, and we're going to be leaving the sacrament out. And I had a little bit of anxiety about it. I got to be honest. I was a little bit anxious. And then I thought, okay, but it's going to be okay. We talked about it. Everyone was like, Father, it's going to be okay. I'm like, all right, it's going to be okay. So we get to the morning of 40 hours. And we were going to start at 11 o'clock, just like you, with Mass. Everything was set. Church was beautiful. Everything was ready. And I was feeling really good. And then the phone calls started. Father, have you seen the front of church? And I said, no, I haven't been out yet. Father, you got to go out front. So I go out front. The police are already there. On the morning that we started 40 hours, and we hadn't had 40 hours in over 25 years at the parish, on that morning, and I'd been there a number of years, and no one who was there had ever recalled anything like this ever happening before, someone or someones decided that that was the morning to vandalize the front of the church. All kinds of filth thrown up on the front of the church. And I have to be honest with you, my heart, it just hurt. I thought, here we are, we're starting 40 hours today. How am I supposed to leave the sacrament out when something like this could happen? And then all of a sudden, a switch flipped in my head. And I remembered that in our history here in the Archdiocese of Philadelphia, when St. John Newman was considering starting the parish-wide, the diocesan-wide 40 hours devotions, there was a pattern of church burnings that was going on in Philadelphia at the time. There were 2 churches that were burned, and they were on the way to burn a 3rd church when it was in some ways stopped, it was quelled. And he was having similar kinds of anxiety about, how can I start this up, and worry about, will the sacrament be desecrated while it's on the altar? And he fell asleep one night, and the candle that he had while he was writing burned down. And the papers on his desk caught on fire, but the fire mysteriously went out. When he woke up, all of the writing was still there. And he said that he heard a voice in his head say, and I'll paraphrase for you, basically, don't worry about what you're doing. What you're doing is good, and I will protect it. Just as I protected you and I protected the papers on your desk, don't worry about it. Everything's going to be okay. And in that moment, I remember as we started the 40 hours devotions, as people were out scrubbing the stuff off the front of the church, I got up and I talked to the people in my parish, and I said, you know what? Jesus told us that when we would do things that were good, and make no mistake about it, what we were doing, what we were restarting was good. What you're doing now and what you're restarting is good. We should not be surprised if those who are opposed to the good try to find a way to stop you from doing it. 40 hours went off without a hitch. 5 years we've been doing it now. Never a problem. Brothers and sisters, what you're doing today, what you're restarting today, in the heart of your parish, is something that is very good. You know, Father Matt knows this from my time at the seminary. I would always talk to the guys, I taught liturgy there, and I would always say to them, it's about Sunday. Sunday. It's the Lord's Day, right? What we do at the end of the day, any parish, why does that parish exist? And I don't mean to upset anybody. All these things are good things that I'm going to name, right? But the parish doesn't exist for your adult education, as important as that is. Parish doesn't exist for your school, as important as that is. It doesn't exist for your parish religious education program. It doesn't exist for your CYO program. It doesn't exist for your pancakes downstairs, even though they smell delicious. Your parish exists so that you can worship God. That's the number one thing. And if you have that right, everything else will fall into place. What you're doing right now, what you are making a commitment to, is you are saying, we want our Eucharistic Lord to be in the heart of our parish. We want everything that we do to lead us to this moment and flow forth from it. That's what we want. And we want because we're going to cultivate our little part of the vineyard of the Lord by remaining close to the Lord, just like the vines and the branches. We know that by being close to the Lord, His very life will flow into us, and everything that we do here, animate everything that we do here, and will make it good, strong, holy, pure. That's what we want. So my brothers and sisters, as you come today and you begin these devotions together, if you don't mind, I'd like to challenge you at the beginning. Could someone possibly say that your apples aren't what they're supposed to be? I don't know. But I know this much. With God, if you root yourselves in Him, and you make a conscious effort to say, not what is someone else going to do about this, but what am I going to do about this? What am I going to invest in this moment? Nothing but good fruit, people. Nothing but good fruit will come of that. So as we come before the altar of the Lord and as we begin these devotions together, please, in your minds, in your hearts, ask yourself, how am I going to contribute? How am I going to give myself to this moment to help build up the vineyard that is around me? How am I going to invest myself into this so that the fruit that we bear here together will be good, will be holy, will be the stuff of God? Then the lifeblood of your parish begins to pump with much more energy, with much more vigor, with much more vibrancy, because you're allowing the heart of the Lord Jesus to pulse within you.